do some stuff in real time as well. So I'm calling this Operation Going Rogue, and it's just about finding a path that you love. And that includes your personal brand. So I already gave you my spiel, so I won't do it again, but that's me. So in order to find a path that you love, you have to find your voice first. And then the way that I define your voice is basically unlocking the way that you express yourself. So however you express yourself, writing, talking, being the creative person that you are, being the business person that you are, however you define yourself, that's your voice. And that's the brand that you exude to the world. And it's important that you identify that so that you can be clear about what you like, what you don't like, and also make sure that the people you're inviting into your life and things like that are clear on who you are and what you're about. So these are questions that I like to ask. The first one is, who are you? And that is your personal brand. Some follow-up questions could be, what do you want to be known for? What do people come to you for? What do you like to talk about? All of that is under the personal brand umbrella. And in the corner at the top left, I have examples for myself. So I like to talk about AI tools. I like to talk about marketing. I talk a lot about personal development and professional development. So people come to me for all of those topics. And when I'm expressing myself online or talking to other people, that's what I'm normally talking about. Next up is your core values. So the question that I like to ask is, what do you stand for? And those are your values. Some follow-up questions would be, what won't you do for money? It's very important to have that set, because when you graduate or even while you're in school, people will approach you with some interesting stuff, and you got to know what your values are, what you won't and won't do, what you will and won't do. Another question might be, how would you like to be treated in the work environment? When you enter into the workspace, you're going to be working with people who've been there for years, and they work differently than what you will work like. So setting your boundaries, having your values is very important so that you know what you will and won't put up with in a work environment. And then the next question is, what type of people do you like to work with, or who you don't want to work with? That's also super important. So some more examples for me, I value flexibility. I am 100% remote now, and I like to travel while working. So one of my values is that I won't be going back into an office. So I'm set on that. And then another one is creative autonomy. I always work in roles and jobs where I'm able to be creative. And if I'm being micromanaged or anything, I know that's not an environment for me. So last but not least, your impact also falls under your voice or personal brand. And the question I like to ask is, why do you want to do what you want to do, or why do you do what you do? More questions you can ask yourself is, how do you want to be remembered, and what do you want to be remembered for? So once again, my example, I created a company called Breakroom Buddha, and my mission is to help job seekers, so young professionals, mid-career professionals, figure out what work they like to do, and what lifestyle they would like to live. So this year, a goal of mine is to help 3,000 job seekers. So you can do the same for yourself. Think about what kind of impact you want to make. It doesn't have to be your own company that you start, but you can think about that even if you're working with someone else or for another company. And here's some key takeaways for how to find your voice. This is what I just said was a lot. This is what you could pay attention to, and you can implement it in your day-to-day. So key number one is to identify your topic. So what are your expertise? What do you like to talk about right now? You don't have to think about the skills that you might have to gain in the future. Just think about what you're good at right this second, and then stick with it. Key number 2 is to pick a medium for expression. So where do you show up the best and the most? So is it social media? Are you good at video? Do you want to record a podcast? Are you good at audio? It doesn't matter as long as you're getting your personal brand out into the world and people know who you are and what you stand for. That's a step in the right direction. And then key number 3 is to find your razzle dazzle. So this is something that I made up, but I like to think of razzle dazzle as like a flair that only you have. So normally if someone is annoyed by something coming from someone else, it might not be as annoying coming from you. And I call that your razzle dazzle. So think about what that unique quality might be in yourself, and then hone in on that as well. So I'll give you an example. So like I mentioned before, my topic that I talk a lot about is career planning, career development, and personal development in young professionals. The vehicle that I choose to talk about these topics on is written words and workshops. And then my razzle dazzle is unsolicited advice, because unsolicited advice is not always good coming from everyone, but I like to lean in on that. And I say that's my razzle dazzle. So if I wanted to put this in like an elevator pitch or a 1-sentence pitch, I would say something like, I offer guidance through written advice and workshops to young professionals on the topics like career readiness, planning, and personal growth. And then going back to impact, if I wanted to throw in some impact or some numbers, I could say this year, my goal is to help 3,000 job seekers find a job that they enjoy or that they love. So that's how I would do my brand statement. And here are some resources. So if you need help finding out what your core values are or what kind of topics or careers you like to talk about, one website that you can use is Career Explorer. It's a longer career quiz, but it's very helpful. They have over 800 careers that they can match you with after you're done with your quiz. Another one is Predictive Index, and that one's more of an assessment. They give you a bunch of descriptive adjectives, and then you just check which ones align with you as a person. And then it's freakishly accurate, but they'll give you results that tell you what your strengths are, what your caution areas are, and how you like to work in a work environment. And then the next one is Next Steps Idaho. And this was put together by Idaho's government. You don't have to be an Idaho resident to use it, but they do a really good job also helping you identify what work environments you like to be in, what your skills are, and what your interests might be. So those are 3 cool resources. Next up is your vibe. So the way that I describe your vibe is that once you know who you are as a person and what your personal brand is, then you can start to move into places and spaces where you attract people who are like-minded, who like things that are similar to you and have similar values as you. And that's essentially your community. So once you know who you are and you're ready to find your community, then you're ready to do networking. And networking, I set it up in 3 stages, and level 1 is the easiest. So level 1 is your inner circle. So those are people who like are your immediate friends, your family members, and those are people that you can just practice with when you're trying to network for the first time, or you haven't been networking in a while and you're a little bit rusty. And they're normally the nicer people. They won't judge you. They won't make fun of you. They'll just have a nice, simple conversation with you. So I say always start with your inner circle before you start leveling up. Level 2 is your friends' friends. So once you think you talk to enough friends and family members, and you're thinking more about maybe opportunities or jobs or things that you want to learn a little bit more about, then you can ask your friends or family members to refer you to someone that they might know who works in a specific space that you're interested in. And this is what I consider level 2 of networking. And then level 3 is people that you do not know at all, but you're interested in the work that they do or them as a person. And after you've already done level 1 and level 2, you should be at a good place to have some decent conversations and not be as nervous when you're networking with people that you don't know. So if you struggle with networking or you're a little bit rusty, these are 5 things that I like to keep in mind. Number 1, start small. So like I mentioned, friends and family or friends of friends. Even your professors, your TAs are good examples of starting small. And level 2, make the first move. So if someone doesn't really like networking, but they don't mind it, they might let it fall through the cracks. So you have to be the one to make the first move. So setting up the call, if you have like a Calendly link or another online platform that makes it easy for them to schedule a call with you, that's a good way to make sure you keep it moving so that you don't let the call fall through the cracks when you're scheduling your networking calls. Number 3 is creating a pre-networking routine. So talking to yourself in a mirror or recording yourself and how you introduce yourself and things like that is a good way to shake off a little bit of nerves and practice what you're going to say before you start having conversations with folks. Number 4 is come prepared. So you can write down some questions. You can Google some questions. I have questions that I can send to y'all if you need it, but always come with some questions that you want to know about the person so that you don't leave any room, any silent like spaces or any wasted time for the person that has agreed to talk with you. You want to make sure that the conversation is always moving forward and it doesn't die down. And then number 5 is to follow up. I admit my follow-up game is kind of weak. I'll have conversations with folks and then I'll let it die down. But I'm telling you, don't do that. After the conversation, you can connect with people on social media if you're comfortable. LinkedIn is a more acceptable social media platform to connect with people on after you have a conversation with them in a professional sense. And then it makes it easy for you to stay connected there too. You can DM a person, you can like and comment on the post that they make and things like that. So you always remain kind of top of mind, especially if you're interested in working in an industry or field that they are working in. And these are just more examples of places where you can network and find your community. I won't read all of these, but I'll point out a few that people might not think about. So co-working spaces, I know there are a few in Athens. There are some in Atlanta. Switch Yards is an example of a co-working space. And I believe they have their own like original programming, like they'll bring business people in to come speak about their businesses and things, so that's a good one. Food halls and mixed use complexes. I don't think Athens has any food halls, but if you go to Atlanta, you go to like Ponce City Market, or the other food hall that's on like the West End. Those are good places. People are always working or chilling at coffee shops. So you can strike up random conversations with strangers if you want to get out of your comfort zone. And then conferences and events. I know I have Anita Borg on here. Anita Borg has a conference every year and it's for women in tech. But you don't have to be in tech if you want to go. You can just go, but you can look up other organizations like this who have yearly conferences, and they also have free memberships and paid memberships for people, and you can continue to network, and they have little smaller events in the Atlanta area. And then the Alumni Association. You're not an alumni yet, but that doesn't mean you can't sneak into some of the events. So I'm giving you permission to try to sneak into some of the alumni events, or at least sign up for a mentor through UGA's portals so you can be in the know of what things are happening and events are happening in the Metro Atlanta area. And this is more resources. So these are opportunities to network virtually if you don't want to leave Athens or your room. Lunchclub.com is an AI sort of networker thing for you. I don't know the best way to explain it. I guess super connector. But basically you sign up, you put your interest down, you put times that you're available, and then it automatically connects you with someone to network with. And you can do one network chat a week. I did it during 2020 for a little bit, and I met some cool people through there. So I like the platform. Creative Mornings is another one. It's global, so they have chapters all around the world. They have one in Atlanta as well, but they also have virtual workshops that you can sign up for, and people are always chatting in the Zoom chat. So you can meet some people that way as well. And then alpha.com is women only, but they have a sort of like a Reddit style setup where you can go in and ask questions and chat with other people. And they also have a job board and things like that. So those are some cool places to find your people. And then last but not least, find your vigor. So vigor just means like staying motivated when you're putting yourself out there and you're getting rejected or you're not seeing the results that you want to see. You still want to keep going and you don't want to get discouraged because everyone faces rejection. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about rejection. So academic rejection, you know what that looks like: poor grades, failing your exams, failing a course. This is like the baby version of rejection because you'll see bigger forms of rejection as you get through college and graduate and start working in the real world. So this is sort of like practice rejection. I know that's a bad way to put it because it feels like the end of the world when you're going through it. But I'm telling you, it's not. When you face rejection, though, you always need to have an action plan. So an action plan for academic rejection might look like seeking feedback, developing a study plan, or focusing on small progress instead of focusing on perfection. So the same type of action plan that applies to academic rejection applies to social rejection. And social rejection might look like not being able to form friendships, not fitting into certain groups, and not being able to find mentors that you relate to. And once again, just like academic rejection, you'll have to develop an action plan for social rejection. So you can do the same thing. You can seek feedback, like try to figure out why certain spaces aren't working for you. You can continue to push forward by trying to enter new spaces and find more people that have similar interests and values and think like you. You can also focus on building more genuine connections. So sometimes when you're facing social rejection, you might be at a surface level with people and you can't get deeper. And then just be more open-minded and proactive about the spaces and people that you're allowing into your life. And then last but not least, opportunity rejection. So this is like going out to get a job or internship and you don't get the one that you want. Once again, not securing the right type of mentor that you're looking for, or not landing a leadership position on campus. All of these things are not the end of the world. You just need an action plan, just like before. So you can continue to seek feedback, lean on mentors like your professors or your TAs that are on campus with you. You can explore alternative opportunities and pathways that align with your short-term and long-term goals. Because there's more than one way to get what you want from anything, from academic, social, or general opportunities. So that's my high level advice. You just keep pushing forward. And these are 3 things that I like to keep in mind when I'm facing rejection. Like everyone faces rejection, you'll never get everything that you want. The first thing that I like to keep in mind is that rejection builds character. I have a theory that everyone would be super rotten, and this would not be the best place to live in general, the world, if everyone got exactly what they wanted all the time. So rejection builds character, it toughens you up a little bit, it teaches you lessons, it teaches you humility, and it helps you become an overall better person. Mindset number 2, rejection is a breeding ground for clarity. I believe that rejection redirects us towards a path that's a little bit better suited for us. And then it helps shape you into the person that you're supposed to be, and helps you discover your true potential. So in that sense, rejection is great. I love it. And then the third thing that I like to keep in mind is that rejection keeps all of our plates balanced. So I am an overachiever. A lot of people are, so don't worry if you are too. But when I'm rejected from things, that just helps me stay balanced. So I'm not raising my hand for too many things. And that if I am raising my hand for too many things, it could lead to burnout. So in that sense, rejection is also good. Another thing, you might not know how to keep going, especially when it comes to your professional endeavors or opportunities that you're looking for. You're continuously being rejected. And if that happens, you just need to shoot more shots. The more shots that you have out in the world, the more you stop caring about being rejected from things, because you're constantly going after things. So from a professional standpoint, if you're not getting what you want or where you're trying to go, I advise you to start volunteering. It's a great way for you to learn new skills, make that impact that you want to make in the world, expand your network. And most of the time when people are volunteering for causes, they're a little bit more genuine about connecting with people and doing that type of work. So you'll make genuine connections. You get to choose how much time you spend when you volunteer. So that's a plus, especially for me, because I like my flexibility. And then you get to know your community a little bit better and do some good in that community. So if you're interested in volunteering and expanding your network with genuine folks and things like that, then my favorite place to go is volunteermatch.com. There are a ton of different volunteer portals, but this is the one that I normally use, and I've had great experience with it. So you can check it out too. Another shoot your shot type of thing is job shadowing. So if you're looking for experience, like specific experience, and you know that you want to do a specific job, then going to LinkedIn, connecting with someone who works in the exact industry that you want to work in and doing the exact job that you want to do, and simply just asking them if you can job shadow them, is a great way to shoot your shot to get what you want. And when you're job shadowing, it's a plus because you get tailored experience. You get to be doing exactly what you think you want to do, and you get to discover whether or not you like that thing. You also get to work alongside a professional who's been doing the work day in and day out. You get to learn about different type of career paths. Of course, you get to expand your network naturally. And then when you job shadow, it could lead to some form of paid work, whether it's full-time, part-time, or freelance work. So raising your hand and stepping outside of your comfort zone and shooting your shot when it comes to job shadowing could pay off in the long run. And then last but not least, I'm all about doing your own thing. I've had jobs where I didn't necessarily like what I wanted to do, what I was doing. So I just created my own projects, my own businesses, whatever I wanted to work on, I did it. So I won't read all of that, but long story short, when you do your own thing, you have the flexibility and the control, and you get to do exactly what you want to do. So I love doing that. And the resource here, it's called careercopilot.breakroombuddha.com. And it's just an AI tool that I created, and you can ask it questions. So if you want to do your own thing, you don't know exactly what you want to do, you can ask the AI tool, and it'll guide you through helping you think through some things that you might want to do. when it comes to your career or even in your even in your personal life. So check out that tool if you want. And that's it. This went super quick, but I have QR codes that you can scan if you want to check things out a little bit more. The first one is just me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me and ask me more questions. The second one is the AI tool that I just talked about. You can ask it more questions. And then the third one is just a landing page that'll take you to like a bunch of resources that I talked about in this presentation. But that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions or go back to anything if you have more questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions? I have a question, Deja. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe your first internship that you had in college and the steps that you did to get there?
Yeah, so throughout school, I kind of plotted a little bit. The very first internship I had off campus was at Uber, and I went to San Francisco for it. And what I did was I tried to sign up and be in different leadership positions on campus that helped me reach my goal of working in tech after I graduated. That's a goal that I set for myself. And I set that goal maybe sophomore year, second semester, sophomore year of college. I knew I didn't really want to work in the film industry, but I didn't change my major. And I was like, I'll keep my major. I'll just do like be in organizations outside of my major and then take some classes that could help me reach that goal. So I just planned early. The classes that I took that helped me reach that goal, I did the new media certificate, and that helped me with a little bit of my technical skills. I did an on-campus job, and I was a web developer, web/slash designer for an on-campus facility. And then I joined like entertainment, sports, and media organization, and I was like the head of tech. And then my job was to just design the website and stuff like that. So I just started participating in things that would help me reach that goal. So that's what I tell everyone to do. And I had a lot of on-campus jobs as well, so I had work experience. I just use Handshake. I went to Handshake, and some people, like people will work on campus and they'll do jobs that don't relate to any of the things that they want to do. But when I went on Handshake, I was like, I'm only applying to jobs and doing jobs that relate to me working in media, marketing, or tech. And that's what I did. So all of my jobs were office jobs where I gained my office skills. I got to do a little bit of design, like I designed flyers. Trying to think of what else. That was basically it. I just worked in jobs that helped me reach my goal. And then when it came time to apply, I'll tell you a little bit about my mindset. So I did apply to bigger companies. So like Turner Broadcasting and NBC Universal and all of the typical media companies that everyone applies to. But then I started also applying to smaller companies, so smaller businesses and startups. And when I applied to Uber, it wasn't as big of a deal as it is today. So I always say I got in when it was good because I think when I applied, it was only like the second or third year of them having interns in general. So I just got in early. So when it comes time to look for internships off campus, look for companies that's very, very early into their journey, and you'll have a little bit less competition. Um, Now, after Uber, I did not have a job. I'll be honest. I was unemployed for maybe 3 or 4 months. And during that time, I kept working on side projects. I started reaching out to people in my network. And then I did cold applications. So I went on websites and just applied to companies directly from there. And then I ended up getting a job at Turner Broadcasting. And I think that having a brand name on your resume helps. So if you can get a brand on your resume when you eventually do apply for full-time jobs, it will be helpful. And I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any other questions or I can clarify something else.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, we've got it.
Yeah. Can you hear me from back here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was there like a specific moment in your career when you knew you wanted to go into career coaching and creating your own technology, or was it kind of just like a built up thing?
So I Breakroom Buddha started as a like a blog. So when I first started working, I was running into like office politics a little bit. And this was at Turner. So I knew I no longer wanted to do the work that I was doing, but I didn't know how to get to other types of work. So I was doing more operations work. So making sure that everything ran smoothly on the team that I was working on. And I wanted to do more strategy work and more creative work. So I honestly used my blog as a platform to practice my creative skills, get a little bit closer to the things that I wanted to do. So that when I applied to other roles or when I started talking to other professionals, I had something to show. So it naturally became a thing just because it started off as me just wanting to do it, just for as like proof to myself that I can keep being creative and strategic and things. And then it just turned into something else. um, I do marketing consulting and work with companies still though, so I'm not 100% only doing coaching and career workshops and things. But I'm a little bit closer to the type of work that I like to do. So I do like to talk about careers and help people, but I also like to do marketing consulting and like business consulting. So I still help people and teams with that as well. But yeah, but overall, the more you do the work that you do, so when you are doing your internships, when you eventually get a full-time job, you'll start to realize what you like and what you don't like about the type of work that you're doing. And then you'll just start to follow your curiosity and raise your hand for other types of things, and you'll eventually figure out what you like to do. For me, I'm a busybody, so I'm always constantly checking in with myself to just to see if I like what I'm doing still, and if I don't like it, I just switch. So I think I started Breakroom Buddha maybe 2 years after I graduated college. Um, but I didn't leave my first job until maybe 4 years after I'd been working in it. So even if you realize that you don't like something, it might take a little bit of time to leave the thing and to go and explore other things. So I hope I answered your question. Any other questions?
Thank you for coming out tonight. I was curious. You seem to have a very optimistic kind of outlook on life. And I was curious, who is someone that you really look up to or you try to really inspire to be?
Ooh, that's such a hard question. um, yes, about the positivity because I'm like a solutions oriented person. Like if I start thinking about like all the things that are going wrong or that will go wrong, it just like will send me in a downward spiral in the wrong direction. So I'm like, I have to keep thinking about what I like and moving towards that. The people that I look up to, that's really hard. I try to find like mentors in the places that I'm working. So one person that I looked up to when I was working at Turner was a guy. His name is Malum. If you Google him, you'll probably find him and see him. Malum Ligum, he tells his story a lot, but he grew up in New York and he grew up without any money. And then he like worked on Wall Street, figured out that he liked working in sports instead, and he just pivoted his whole life and career and ended up in Atlanta, Georgia, working at Turner Broadcasting in sports. So he's someone that's super cool that I've actually met in person. So I like to look up to people that I meet in real life and in person. I'm trying to think. Another person that I've been following, I'm really into business. So if you've ever listened to Diary of a CEO, the host, Stephen Bartlett, is someone that's super interesting. He interviews CEOs and founders and other people who are doing well in their space. And he's just a great interviewer. So I feel like I'm a journalist at heart. I started in high school, I did journalism classes. In college, I decided not to do journalism and do film instead. But I still appreciate like a good interviewer and a good journalist. And I think Stephen Bartlett is one. And then Guy Raz, if you've ever listened to How I Built This, he's also a good interviewer and storyteller. So I think he's a cool person to look up to too. Cool. Any other questions?
I have a question. So I know that you mentioned that remote work is something that you'll continue to do continuing forward. It's kind of a deal breaker for you. Otherwise, why would you say that is? And do you think that will continue through the rest of your career? Or is that just a temporary?
That's a good question. So when I was going into the office, it felt like every single day was the same. And even when I was in the office, I never worked at my desk. So Turner had a campus and they had a cafeteria that kind of looked like a mini Ponce City Market. They had a Starbucks on campus. They had seats outside. So like when you work on a big campus, like you don't really want to work at your desk because there are so many other places where you can work. So I kind of got used to not even working at a desk. I was always traveling around the campus and working other places. So I was essentially remote working from the office since the beginning of my career. So I feel like I just got used to not being at a desk, not having to be at a desk. And then when the pandemic started, everyone completely went remote anyway. And I was like, oh, I was already doing this just on a campus. So it's so hard. My whole career I basically have been remote, so it's hard for me to stop doing that now. I'll go to co-working spaces, I'll fly out and meet my team and do things for a couple of days, but I don't want to move just for a job, and I don't want to move just to be in an office all day. So no, I don't think I think I'll always be remote. But I tell people to experience both. Like I experience working in an office and I experience not. So I think I leave it up to people to figure it out whether or not they like the office environment, they like traveling and driving to work or taking the train or however you get to work. You just got to figure out if you like that and it works with your routine. If it does, then I say do it. And if it doesn't, then figure out a way to be remote or hybrid or something. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
Deja, I really enjoyed the networking portion of your workshop, and I was just wondering, was there ever a networking call you had that didn't go exactly how you wanted to? And what was, if you had like some advice to give us on like just calls that maybe don't go the way we want them to, and what are some things we can do to like improve it for the next time?
Yeah, some calls are like awkward. Like I'm a person who's super like hyper and giddy and like excited to talk. But not everybody is like that. And I feed off of people's energy. So when I see that people are just like calm down, I'm like, oh, well, it's that it's that type of conversation, I guess. So yeah, you'll meet people who won't match your energy, but what I like to do is I like to have my set list of questions. So that keeps me moving the conversation in the right direction. And then I give people an out. So like if it's maybe like 10-15 minutes in and we're still not vibing and they you can tell that they just want to exit the conversation, I just say, well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anyone else in your network that might want to have a conversation with me? I give them the space to say yes or no. If they say yes, I say great. Could you share their information? If they say no, then I say okay, thanks for your time, and then I let them go. So the best way to do it is to give people an out, have your set of questions so that you know what you're asking, and then keep it short. So 10 to 15 minute calls is perfect. And then if the conversation isn't going well, then the call can end in 10 or 15 minutes or even before then, if you so choose. And then if you're enjoying the conversation and they want to extend the time, you can do it right there on the call or just have a follow-up call with them. So those are the things I like to keep in mind. You 100% always have the choice to exit a conversation if it's not going well. So don't feel obligated to stay there. So yeah, that's just how I approach it. But yeah. Cool.
I was wondering what type of clients you normally work with or what kind of jobs you normally Google in.
Yeah, sure. So I realize I didn't walk you through everything that I've done. So I'll just walk you through that real quick. And then you'll get a better sense of like the type of work that I do. So when I was working in tech, I was a design intern. And I was essentially like a design operations intern. Our designers would create banner ads, social media graphics, whatever the team needed. And then they would give it to my team and we would reproduce it on a mass scale. So so it freed up the designer's time. They didn't have to design an Instagram ad, a Facebook ad, a billboard ad, and they just designed it one time, gave it to us. And then we were the ones to design those Facebook ads, billboard ads, whatever kind of other ads or assets our marketing team needed. So that was essentially creative operations. After leaving Uber, I came back to Atlanta and I worked in another type of operations role. It was marketing operations. And my job was essentially to blow up our operations once again. So our marketing team would have concepts that they would want to execute to activate our fans, either to watch games. I worked in the sports department, watch games, buy tickets, buy jerseys, whatever they wanted fans to do. They would give the plan to my team, and then we would create email email workflows that once a fan got into that flow, they would receive like a series of emails from us. So we planned all of it out. If it was like a game that people wanted to watch, we would be the ones to plan out the text messages or alerts or any type of ping that we wanted to send to fans. We would tell them to watch the game, buy jerseys, buy tickets. And we also worked with like product teams to implement like landing pages and things like that. So it was basically marketing at scale. That was my job at Turner. When I moved on from Turner, I worked at a company called Morning Brew, and I was on the strategy team. So we would strictly work with third-party companies that wanted to promote their brand on our website, in our newsletter, or on our podcast. And it was my job to come up with the type of campaigns that we would execute for them. So it could have been anything from them sponsoring a conference to them sponsoring a giveaway for our audience. So that was a fun job. That's marketing strategy, branded strategy, or integrated marketing. It would be called any one of those things at any type of company. So if you like doing strategy work or like consulting type work, that's a good job to have. And now I work with like a nonprofit education company and a sports league. With the nonprofit, I'm doing more product marketing work. So I'm working with our product managers and our sales teams to make sure that we position our products correctly in the market so that they sell in the market. And then with the sports league, I'm doing operations work once again, but I'm not executing any of it. I'm more of like a project manager, making sure that all of our teams are doing what they need to do in order to get our emails up and going, in order to get ticket sales, in order to make sure our sponsors are happy with where their logos and things are placed on the website, and in the arenas during gameplay and things like that. So I have my hands in a lot of pots. I like to stay more in the media and sports world. I like the publisher world. So publishers are like your newspapers and things like that. I like that world, but it's a little unstable sometimes. So if you see in the news that a lot of publications are shutting down, like Sports Illustrated shut down. I think Refinery 29 had some problems. So the publisher world is a little bit shaky. So I'm not in it as often. But if you like media and you want to work in it, I like to stay in the sports world, and I like to stay in like the traditional conglomerate worlds, like the Turner broadcasts, NBCs of the world, because they're not really going anywhere, but they might merge with another company. So then it becomes a little bit shaky because a lot of mergers are happening right now. So I just say pay attention to the news. If media is the space you want to work in, or tech, pay attention to the news so that you can see what's happening in the industry. And that's how you can decide whether or not right now is the right time to be working for certain industries and certain companies. But I hope that helps, and it gave a little bit of clarity to what I do in my path. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Deja.
Yeah, no problem. I'll stop sharing.
Last night. Perfect. All right, everybody be sure to connect with Deja on LinkedIn, and then you can also view her website, Breakroom Buddha, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yay. All right, thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye, y'all. You can ask me questions on LinkedIn if you have anything else. Awesome. Bye.
Bye.